Welcome back on moving on to our first segment for today, talking about the BRICS summit taking place in South Africa. And of course, we know that Egypt is participating in this important event. We are talking about how important it is and more about the files and challenges that the developed countries are facing. Over the phone, we have Dr. Hassan Waguih, Professor of Economics and Political Science. Hello.
Hello.
Good morning, Doctor.
Good morning to you.
So first of all, let me ask about the importance and the strength that you see when it comes to the BRICS in general, talking about the members of this BRICS.
Yes, the basic members is a group of 5 countries. The abbreviation of the term BRICS represents the first letters. You have Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. This has been for 14 years now. And they care about creating cooperation, economic cooperation in the first place. They have other objectives to enhance interdevelopmental efforts among these countries. To try to get out of the hegemony of the dollar and transact with their local currencies. So it attracted the attention of many countries.
Well, actually,
like
they have many files we are going to discuss later. But when we talk about the strength of the BRICS in general, and now we have understood that there is going to be a way to increase number of members and to add more developed countries. How do you see this?
Yes, you have these countries now. With the guests they have already invited, there are 40 President and Prime Minister attended the 3 days conference in Johannesburg, and they constitute like 40% of the population of the world and 25% of the world economy. So this is a very huge gathering. Very important coalition taking place to create a multipolar world, and you have actually 2 scenarios for this coalition. Either they work on they focus on financial issues only to reduce the hegemony and dominance of the dollar in the global economy, or there is another scenario. The scenario of creating or becoming a geopolitical coalition, and this will have increasing impact on world politics and the world order in general.
So we're talking about the currency file, right? So
yes.
if they were able to do this, well, both scenarios at the end will have the same result. So how do you see the impact of this on economy in general when it comes to the developed countries?
Yes, but these 2 scenarios are not the same when it comes to income, to outcome. Because if you're still working on dollar dominance only and financial issues only, is something, and you became a huge geopolitical power, this would be far more better and far more stronger, and maybe create much more tension and confrontation, tough competition, more than just the financing only. So these 2 scenarios are there, and nobody knows which scenarios will be implemented and operationalized in the future. Yes.
Right. What I meant is that we are talking about either creating a new currency or using currency among them. And really, I'm focusing on the point of, just as you mentioned, putting pressure on using the dollar. So this is what I meant when it comes to economic challenges we are facing, in addition, of course, to the economic challenges other developed countries are facing in the region.
Yes, now I think that this is a very attractive effort by this group, and many countries wanted to join them. And of course, when it comes to joining these, it is not an easy thing, and it is something still, despite the fact that the BRICS has been for 14 years, but this does not mean that they became in real power when it comes to the objectives they set. They have a long way to go, especially when it comes to the currency, to establish a new currency. They call it BRICS Plus or R. They have several names, but they did not settle on any name. And also the road is still long. Because even when it comes to the 5 countries themselves, which is Russia, India, Brazil, and China and India, they have to settle so many things. And also they have debated the idea of having more members. China wants to expand. India is much more in having reserved stances. Brazil and South Africa wanted to do this kind of efforts, but with a very, very balanced way with the international community, with the West. They don't want to alienate the United States. So even the members' stances are different. There is a conflict between somehow a conflict between India and China because there was territorial dispute among them in 2020. Nobody can forget this. And also, India is really emerging as a global power, and they are balancing their situations. They are afraid that China will take the stance of making the whole thing as a confrontational bloc with the West. India doesn't want to do this. India also has what is called the Quad, which is security arrangement and agreement between India and Japan, Australia, and the United States. So India wants more balanced, and they are having some kind of skepticism regarding expanding, or that China will take the whole coalition into another direction. So I think this kind of internal potential conflict will tell us that there is a long way to go, and we have to settle all these kind of things. And even those people who are around and they are very enthusiastic, like 40 countries wanted to join them because the objective is very attractive. It's to have balanced world, to have multipolar world, not to fall in the trap of the dominance of the dollar. These are legitimate aspirations by all these countries. But let us say that they did not even decided the 5 countries. I mean the 5 countries, again for the listener, China, Russia, India, and Brazil. They did not decide to include other people. They debated what are the criteria to get people or to let people in. So I think that those countries who want to join, including Egypt, has an excellent potential to join the group. But again, this will tell us something. Balanced situation is very important for us, and also working on ourselves is a must. because even the requirement for getting in needs someone who has worked on himself. And I think Egypt is seeking its way right by having excellent relations with all the members of the countries. Egypt has excellent relations with Russians, with India lately. Modi was here in Cairo. And also Egypt has good relations with South Africa and with Brazil and with Russia, of course. So, and Egypt also wants to have a very balanced stance. We don't want to lose the relationship with the European Union or the United States. We have a strategic partnership with all these, and Egyptian foreign policy is keen to have this neutral stance for the entire world. We don't want coalitions to be confrontations. So there is some reservation here and there.
Doctor, talking about the new development bank as long as we are talking about economic files. So how do you see the role of this bank and how far can it support also the developed countries and Egypt in particular?
Well, when it comes to the bank, yes, it is very important for the members. But let me tell you, and let me be very frank with you regarding this bank. If some people want to say it's good for Egypt because another loans, no, we have to cut down the issue of the loan. We have to seek another economic pathways because when they wanted to elect the people to join them, they want to elect Saudi Arabia, Emirates, Iran, people of strong economy. We are not supposed to get into there to seek more loans. This is not the right policy, of course. So I think that Egypt can cooperate to have them invest, to increase its investment rate with them and with the whole world. Egypt can do that by herself and through this coalition.
Right. If we are talking about, just as you mentioned now, countries to join, and you mentioned that they have some specific criteria. Can we discuss this in more details?
Yes, they discussed that in the 3-day meeting that took place lately, and some people said that they have the criteria, number one, of having countries which has good standing when it comes to economy. And I think that criteria is extremely important to take into account. And of course, the bank will help the development and the developmental efforts of all countries like Egypt or other African countries, where you can see 30 presidents from Africa and the Prime Minister attended the meeting yesterday. But again, this kind of division among the coalition, which is people who would like expansion and people who doesn't want expansion. People who say expansion is good to make it much more stronger coalition like China, but India and Brazil and Russia also wants expansion, because people would know that Russia is not isolated because of the Russian-Ukrainian war, but the other three countries have another stance, which is expansion would create difficulties for them, creating difficulties for taking decision. You know, the more members, the more difficult the decision to be made. If they are 5 and they have all these kind of internal potential differences, so about if they expand with big number of countries who really found the idea attractive for them.
Right. Talking about funding infrastructure in developed countries and other countries here in the region, how far can they support? I mean, when it comes to the challenges and the economic challenges facing the region, how far can they help and be part of this?
Actually, each country out of the five has its own agenda when it comes to mutual investment or mutual help. No one can do something for free for the other. I think that for the benefit of the coalition and the collective efforts, we can find that among the debates that took place, why Russia would not get back to the United Nations agreement on grains, because most of the African countries need these grains. Russia went out of that agreement, as we know, but there was a discussion to let the Russians come back to this agreement again, because this would be of a great help to the African countries and many countries who really are relying on Ukraine and the Russians when it comes to grains.
What other important files were discussed in this summit?
You know, the criteria of getting the issue of expansion or not to expand or not to expand. Of course, interdevelopmental investment among the five themselves was on the table. So.
Right, especially when it comes to some of the files that has to do with, let's say, daily issues like the economic crisis, for example, health issues, education issues. I mean, other important things that each country face. I'm talking about the developed countries. And just as you mentioned, of course, that each country or each one of the members, of course, they have to do it according to their own benefits. But at the end, it has to be a win-win policy.
Yes. Actually, yes. The issue of raising the win-win policies are there. And, you know, what is a good thing about the BRICS and about even the demonstrations all over the world by so many countries who really found it attractive to join, is that the United States itself and the West want to make some kind of concession to attract these countries again. So, for instance, they may put pressure on the international financing institution like the World Bank and the IMF to be much more compatible with the needs of the developing country. So the coalition is important when it comes to this because, as you mentioned, win-win. Instead of these Western institutions who seemed for many developing countries as playing the zero-sum game, I think they are getting to play a variable sum, or technically speaking, to get back to the track of win-win. And the whole world needs this win-win. But there are some obstacles, as you can see, in the world arena. When you see the Russian-Ukrainian war is not settled so far, but it is grinding and it is escalating, unfortunately. But, well, the economic coalition proves to the world, and including in that all the countries that wanted to join it, that the world needs a win-win strategy. And this is a very good thing about the BRICS.
Right. Dr. Hassan Waguih, Professor of Economics and Political Science, thank you very much for joining us. And moving on to a quick break, then we'll be back.